Ash had planned to clear this scenario with firepower, and the good news was that the number of living armors had been reduced to a quarter. At least for now, the battle was still under Ash's control. Your Highness, I have rescued Lady Jupiter. Although he did not like this old woman, he understood that maintaining a good relationship with the mage was the wise choice. It's great that you made it back alive. Your Highness, I am ashamed. I made mistakes, old as I am, and caused the loss of innocent young lives. I am truly heartbroken. It's not your fault. Nobody expected monsters to suddenly appear in the sky or for the horses to get spooked and run away. No, it is my fault. At my age, still standing on the battlefield, I should know how to handle these situations. The mistakes I made must be rectified by me personally. I must be the one to slay that creature. You need to focus on recovering right now, because I will need your strength very soon. Meanwhile, monsters continued to swarm towards the city walls, and cannon fire kept pouring down on them. Cease fire. Continuing the slaughter now is pointless. Despite the ongoing charges of the monsters, the commander ordered the cannons to stop firing. But Ash had not given up the fight. Instead, he was saving their strength for the strongest enemy. Damien, you take a break too, but the monsters are still advancing. You need to hunt stronger monsters. Take this time to recuperate. By now, the monsters had reached the city walls. While the walls were not breached, the monsters began climbing up. Prepare for hand-to-hand combat. Upon hearing the command, the soldiers picked up their weapons and stood by the edge of the wall. From now on, this was a fight that would rely on physical might to stop the enemy, not magic. This was true warfare. As the monsters drew closer, the soldiers' hearts raced, but they could not strike yet. They had to wait for the perfect moment, a moment that could utterly destroy the enemy. Now, drop it! The soldiers immediately brought barrels they had prepared to the edge of the wall, filled with various debris left over from the wall fortification efforts. To be safe, Ash had kept these materials on the wall in advance. Although a considerable number of monsters were shattered by the fall, the remaining ones stood up again, undeterred, and continued to climb the wall. Use the spears to block those creatures as much as possible. Ash now had to reposition Jupiter as a main member of the team. With two mages now on the team, their magical attack was boosted by 20%. Unfortunately, the monsters had already reached the top of the wall, and the soldiers had to engage in hand-to-hand combat. Watching the continuously roaring monsters, Ash couldn't help but worry whether his soldiers could hold their ground. After all, to fight these creatures, they had to overcome the deep-seated fear in their hearts. Just then, a golden light flashed atop the city wall. I'll take them down. You just hold your positions. With Lucas's encouragement, the soldiers immediately rallied, regaining some morale. Seeing this, Ash breathed a sigh of relief. If the soldiers couldn't overcome their fear, death was all that awaited them. Lily, activate the next artifact. Yes, Your Highness. Activating the haste artifact. With the artifact activated, all friendly forces' movement speeds increased by 5% for 5 minutes. Coupled with the buffs from Ash's class, the soldiers finally had the capability to engage the monsters in melee combat. However, Ash was well aware that there was still a significant power gap between them. Ordinary soldiers simply couldn't contend with the monsters. The real game changers were the heroes with unique traits and skills. Lucas's first skill, the Strike of Strong Will, increased in damage the more enemies he killed. With this skill, he alone held half the city wall, but it was impossible for him alone to hold the entire wall. As time ticked away, more soldiers were wounded. Even the injured monsters remained formidable fighters. Damien wanted to join the battle, but was stopped by Ash. You need to conserve your energy for the Spectre Knight. That's the only way we can minimize casualties. Just as Ash felt overwhelmed, a flash of fire lit up the wall. At that moment, the figure sitting in a wheelchair seemed immensely reliable. Lily, you can still use magic. Are you being too harsh? I'm a mage. After all, seems like she can't handle the massive mana depletion of fire magic. Lily, I believe you can still do it. Why not just retire me? My mana is almost depleted. One more time. I believe you can do it. With various buffs stacking, Lily's magical damage was significantly enhanced. She was pushed around the wall by Ash, repeatedly using fire magic to burn the enemies. With the soldiers blocking with their bodies, Lucas slicing through enemies, and Lily's flames, the living armors finally all fell. The soldiers didn't immediately realize they had won, but cheers soon echoed along the wall. However, Ash knew it wasn't that simple. Although he wanted everyone to rest, they would soon face a stronger Spectre Knight. Suddenly, the remains of the living armors flew up into the air, forming the body of the Spectre Knight. Soon, a massive monster appeared before everyone. It merely landed on the ground, causing a violent tremor, panicking all the soldiers. Ash hadn't expected the Spectre Knight to be so formidable in reality. In the game, it was just a regular boss that had appeared countless times, but now that it stood before him, he felt a deep-seated fear trembling through his body. He quickly suppressed this fear, knowing there was absolutely no chance of escape. Fire! Don't hold back! Fire all the cannons! In an instant, fierce cannon fire engulfed the Spectre Knight, yet this powerful force only made it stagger half a step backward. The Spectre Knight was still advancing step by step towards the fortress. Lily, quickly activate the third artifact. Upon hearing this, Lily immediately activated the magic amplifier. It provided double the magic amplification to a user, and the recipient of this power boost was Jupiter. Now I finally feel a bit like I did in my prime. Jupiter, Jupiter, I'm counting on you to focus your attacks on the enemy's breastplate. Your Highness, you'd better watch out for the lightning. If you get electrocuted, I'm not responsible. With a single strike, Jupiter actually pierced through the Spectre Knight's armor. Now, the creature's spirit core was clearly exposed before everyone. Damien, aim for the monster's spirit core. Upon command, Damien activated his 1,000-mile eyes and shot the Spectre Knight's spirit core with a crossbow. Without any surprises, the bolt precisely hit the core, shattering it before everyone. Just when Ash thought everything was over, the Spectre Knight raised its sword towards the fortress. Although the bolt had pierced its spirit core, Jupiter, one more time, daring to raise your weapon above your head in stormy weather. Fool, do you wish to be struck by lightning? Suddenly, flashes of lightning appeared on the Spectre Knight, and in the next second, blue lightning struck it directly. While the Spectre Knight was completely engulfed by the lightning, its sword had already been swung down towards the city wall. Everyone, get out of the way! Escape the black shadow. Your Highness, you need to dodge too. At that moment, the Spectre Knight's sword had already hit the city wall. The residual force of the sword even knocked down the nearby soldiers. Thanks to Lucas's help, Ash was not injured by this attack, and the heroes in the team had also managed to dodge in time. But the Spectre Knight's sword was deeply embedded in the city wall. Now, Ash and his team had no strength left to fight. The good news was that the Spectre Knight had also expended the last of its life force in that attack, and they had finally won this battle. But at that moment, the remnants of the Spectre Knight began to undergo a strange transformation. Lucas quickly prepared to protect Ash, but Ash stopped him. This is the Spectre Knight's final struggle. While this attack won't directly harm people, getting caught in it could lead to a mental breakdown. Get out of here. This is human territory. Just like that, the Spectre Knight's final attack turned into golden light and completely dissipated. The huge creature was no more. Where did that Spectre go? Did Prince Ash annihilate them all? And is everything really over? As the Spectre Knight vanished, dawn finally broke through the thick clouds, and the Empire's flag still fluttered over Crossroad. We defeated those monsters. We've won. We've survived. We will continue to win and survive. Fear gradually disappeared from the soldiers' eyes, replaced by joy over their victory. At this moment, in everyone's eyes, Ash was no longer the infamous third prince, but a competent commander, a true lord. But they did not know that they had only experienced the first scene. On the night the war ended, Crossroad regained its usual tranquility, but the city center's square was brightly lit at this moment. We beat back those armored monsters. To celebrate our victory, cheers. Everyone, drink to your heart's content tonight. My treat. After Ash's speech, the banquet officially began. After a day of battle, people were immersed in music, welcoming a brief respite. Soldiers and citizens drank glass after glass. The aroma from the pots filled the air, and steaks sizzled on the grills. Everything seemed so wonderful, but Ash sat away from the crowd, alone. Watching the happy smiles on people's faces, he too felt a bit of satisfaction. Your Highness, are you alright? You haven't eaten all day. Come have something to eat. The mighty Spectre Knight has fallen before the city walls. Your expression doesn't look like that of a commander who has just won a battle. You managed to drive back more than 1,000 specters without major losses. I think you could be a bit happier. This time, we indeed didn't suffer significant losses, but some people still lost their precious lives. Ash was well aware that discussing the magnitude of losses was meaningless when lives were lost, as every life is immensely valuable. Yet, because of his arrogance, he hadn't saved everyone. If he had been more thoughtful at the time, perhaps those people wouldn't have had to sacrifice themselves. And unlike during the tutorial, there was definitely room for improvement. Realizing this, Ash's heart ached even more. Your Highness, I think you've done well enough. There's no need for self-blame. I know that saying this won't erase your regrets, but, Your Highness, this is a banquet to celebrate our victory. If you're not happy, it won't raise the soldiers' morale. Please smile, at least for this moment, and enjoy the happiness with everyone. That's also something a commander should do. He was absolutely right. Although it's important to mourn those who have sacrificed, but it's also necessary to have time to celebrate victories and enjoy happiness. Eating only meat isn't good for your health, so I've prepared some vegetables for you. I also want to congratulate you on getting through stage 1. It was a very tough scene, and you did great. I hope you'll continue to lead us to victory. After hearing Ader's words, Ash picked up a tomato and prepared to eat it. Prince Ash is eating vegetables. There's no meat left here, so he can only eat vegetables. Sorry, Your Highness, we neglected this. The third prince, famous for only eating meat, is stuck eating vegetables here. You scoundrels, go get some meat for the prince, and bring some wine too. Let's eat meat and drink heartily. Ash didn't understand how things had suddenly turned out this way. He had actually planned to review today's battle quietly on the side. Just then, a hand grabbed his clothes. It turned out that Lily had quietly come up behind Ash, apparently already drunk. Please let me retire. Please, Prince. But how could Ash let Lily step back given the current shortage of personnel? Fortunately, the alchemists quickly noticed the situation and hurriedly took Lily away to rest. But before Ash could recover, Damien started causing trouble. Prince, the water here tastes a bit bitter. It turned out that Jupiter had been secretly pouring wine into Damien's cup. Now he was a bona fide mercenary. Not only did he need to learn to drink, but he also had to learn to smoke. He's like my grandson, so I'll personally teach him well. But at that moment, Damien leaned against Ash on his own. How dare you put your head on the royal body? Damien, you're getting braver. When I'm alone, I often think of the faces of my deceased friends, and the scene of that day lingers in my mind. The sense of guilt often overwhelms me, but strangely, whenever I'm by your side, my mood can calm down. Ash knew that this was not because he was anything special, but because of the effect of his passive skill. However, he couldn't tell Damien the truth. I don't know why, but under your command, I always feel a magic that makes me stronger. Is it because of your excellent leadership? Ash understood that this was actually due to his traits and the supportive effects of the team, but he couldn't share these truths with everyone. Your Highness, when I'm with you, I feel free from distractions, and both light and agile. All this is thanks to your outstanding virtues and your talent as a leader. So, is that also why you keep close to me? That's hard to say. For the sake of the comrades who sacrificed themselves, for those of us who live on, and for you, the prince. Before he knew it, Ash found himself surrounded by people. It's our fault for not keeping the atmosphere lively, allowing our prince who can drink for a week straight not to have a single drink. Since you dare to have me, the Lord and Commander, drink, that means you can handle it too. Everyone, fill up your glasses. And so, as the moon crossed the night sky, they feasted on meat and sang songs with their drinks, reveling in the hard-won victory. After the banquet, Ash proceeded to open all the clearance rewards. Unexpectedly, the first box contained a golden legend and SSR-grade max-level equipment. For a moment, Ash shivered all over, but the next second, he threw the gloves straight out. It turned out, the lucky strike was a gag item in the game. The damage of this glove is determined by a spinner, typically used to liven up the mood. However, it was still an SSR item. Although not very useful, Ash picked it up and put it on. He could only pray that it would draw the jackpot in a critical moment. Time quickly moved to the next afternoon. When Ash woke up, his head was still buzzing, and Lucas at the door looked half dead as well. Are you okay? You should have gone to rest this morning. How can I rest as your highness's guard? Just then, Ader suddenly appeared. Good morning, you too. Here's some hot honey water. Have a cup each. After sobering up, Ash went up to the city walls. The current state of the walls, I'm afraid even wild animals can't be stopped. How long will it take to repair? About 2 weeks, because lifting that sword alone is a huge undertaking. Mobilize all the uninjured soldiers and start repairing the wall from tomorrow. Ader, how is the expansion of our forces going? Soldiers from nearby cities will soon arrive, and the couriers sent to the center will also return tomorrow. While Ash could intervene in other matters, he was completely helpless when it came to replenishing forces, since progress would only be made tomorrow. Let's do what we can in the meantime. We're going to the dungeons to destroy the source of these monsters. Are we going to use the portal to Black Lake like last time? That's right, but this time we'll go directly under the lake. Ash didn't explain too much to them. He simply told everyone they'd be departing for an expedition the next morning. Since entering the dungeon requires a 5-person team, Ash had no choice but to bring Lily along. Ader, prepare some supplies for the expedition. What kind of supplies do you need? Non-perishable food, camping tools, and various potions. Most importantly, bring lighting, lanterns, torches, anything that can produce light. Early the next morning, everyone gathered in the backyard of the Lord's estate. Why all this fuss? Where exactly are we going? You'll find out soon. No sooner had he spoken than the stones on the ground began to float, and soon a portal appeared before them. Could this be teleportation magic? But this magic disappeared hundreds of years ago. How is this possible? Now we'll use this portal to go to the monster's base, the Black Lake. Their kingdom is located beneath the lake. We need to explore there and find the cause of the monsters constantly emerging. This is the only way to prevent the invasions permanently. With that, Ash directly chose the lakeside. Soon, the group arrived at their destination. This really is that lake. Jupiter, have you been here before? That was 20 years ago, back when the Imperial Army was still stationed at Crossroad. Back then, the higher-ups ordered us to try to fill the lake with dirt. They wanted you to fill this huge lake with dirt. Sounds like the commander 20 years ago wasn't too bright. They deployed the entire magical corps, trying to fill the lake by dumping earth into it, but it was impossible. No matter how much dirt or rock they threw in, the lake swallowed it all, as if it were connected to hell itself. This became a hot topic among the Imperial troops at the time. By the 7th day of the operation, monsters began to pour out in huge numbers, and eventually, the whole army had to retreat. The mission was a failure. This is the first time I've been this close to the lake since then. It's good to be a bit tense, because we're about to go much deeper. As he spoke, Ash activated the system to open the path to the Lake Kingdom. A massive whirlpool appeared on the surface of the lake, forming the entrance to the dungeon. Without any hesitation, Ash jumped into the lake. The Blackwater, which had once repelled the Imperial Army, was now being ventured into by just 5 people. As they plunged into the water, darkness immediately swallowed them. Everyone, stay calm and don't rush. First, activate the lighting. Before long, Ash and his group spotted their companions. Just then, Lily was startled by something that appeared in front of her, and everyone hurriedly looked forward. Your Highness, what is this place? This is the so-called Lake Kingdom, a dungeon beneath the lake's surface, and it is also the monster den that we will need to clear one by one. Ash found that they could breathe here and move without any restrictions, probably due to the ancient magic that enveloped the city. How can there be a city under the lake, and how are we able to move normally? Don't talk, someone is coming. Upon Lucas's warning, everyone immediately went into combat readiness. A person with white hair and a black robe, carrying a sword, approached them. Everyone, stay calm. The person is not an enemy. Are you too Tomb Raiders here to seek treasures in the Lake Kingdom? There is nothing here for you. While you can still breathe, you should leave. Seeing the woman before him, Ash was slightly puzzled, as this was an NPC he had never encountered in his 742 playthroughs of the game. There are over 100 NPCs living in the Lake Kingdom who randomly appear to guide players. However, this woman was new to Ash. We came from above ground to find the source of the monsters. The monsters are tormenting the surface, and we are here to put an end to that. The nightmare of the Lake Kingdom will not stop, and no one will ever wake from it. Though many great warriors and countless heroes have tried to lift the curse here, all have failed without exception. Do not step further into the darkness. Return to the surface before things become irreversible. I am the Lord of Crossroad, the fortress city that blocks the monsters. I carry the responsibility of protecting my people from monster attacks. I am not afraid of the darkness. We need to enter the interior of this city and destroy the source of the monsters, which is why we are here. But since the gate is locked, we can't get in. If there is another way through, could you guide us? No problem. I want to see whether what you say comes from true courage or just reckless bravado. Follow me. The way into the city is this way. How should I address you? What is your name? I have forgotten my name. If you must call me something, call me Mumang. And so, they followed Mumang, walking along the city wall for several minutes. We can't follow this unidentified stranger. It must be a trap. I told you it's okay. Just follow her for now. At this moment, Mumang finally stopped. Going in here will lead us to the interior of the city. This is the water distribution facility, so the ground is very slippery. Please be careful. Thus, the group walked through the narrow water inlet for over 5 minutes and finally arrived at the first area of the Lake Kingdom, the dry sewer. Here lies the city's entire water distribution system, and although it's completely dry now, it has become a safe area that monsters cannot enter. Ash did not hesitate to set up a teleportation gate here, and next time, they can directly teleport to this spot. By then, however, Lily was too scared to continue inside. But how could Ash just turn back? This is as far as I guide you. The rest of the path must be traveled based on your will. I warn you, the Lake Kingdom here has been completely consumed by nightmares. The deeper you go, the darker it will get, and the monsters will become stronger. Even so, if you still must journey into the abyss, I offer you this piece of advice. Never let your lights go out. Seeing Mumyang's serious expression, everyone fell silent. Good luck to you, and I hope we meet again someday. With that, Mumyang walked alone into the darkness. What exactly is that woman's background? How does she live in a city under the lake? Your Highness, the darkness here is strange. Even my eyes cannot see ahead. But that woman didn't carry a torch either. How does she navigate through this darkness? Ash didn't know the answers to these questions. We will definitely see her again, and we can ask her then. After some rest, Ash and his group prepared to tackle the first level. With our team's current level, clearing it shouldn't pose any major difficulties. Thus, they took their torches and walked towards the depths of the darkness. It turned out to be a corridor connecting to the sewage pipes. Where does this end? Don't worry, we'll get there soon. It turns out that the dungeon is essentially composed of rooms and corridors. In the rooms, they would either fight enemies, discover items, or encounter NPCs and engage in random events. The activity in the first room, notably, involved defeating the enemies in front of them. Ash and his team needed to eliminate a total of 14 large sewer rats. Although numerous, these creatures certainly couldn't be considered formidable foes. Lucas, you take the vanguard, hold that position, and just take out the ones that get close. Damien, their skulls are very tough. Aim for their eyes or necks. Mages, conserve your firepower. You're only to attack the ones that breach Lucas's line. The only one without combat abilities, Ash, was left to watch. Thus, Damien fully utilized his abilities, with every arrow precisely hitting the monster's throats and eyes. Soon, the large sewer rats in the room were all eliminated. Good job, everyone. That was easy, wasn't it? Compared to the previous enemies, this was indeed much easier. Your Highness, there are 13 of them here. Should we collect the mana stones now? Ash suddenly remembered. The system had clearly indicated 14 large sewer rats. Realizing this, Ash turned sharply, only to see the last monster already pouncing towards him. Instinctively, Ash threw a punch at the monster, and because he was wearing the lucky strike, this punch triggered the lottery system, bizarrely dealing 121 points of damage, slamming the large sewer rat against the wall. Everyone was stunned for a moment. After all, the lucky wheel doesn't easily display triple-digit numbers. Your Highness, are you alright? Were you hurt just now? I'm fine. But what was that just now? How did you knock that monster out with one punch? Because my fist is the prince's fist. Members of the royal family sometimes explode with super strength when in a crisis. Of course, aside from Lucas, the rest of the team looked unconvinced, but Ash managed to smooth it over. There's nothing in the second room. There must be something hidden here. Let's search carefully. Your Highness, there seems to be something here. It's a treasure chest. Be careful. It could be a trap disguised as a treasure chest. However, due to Jupiter's gold rush trait, she had already dashed out first. Fortunately, it was just a regular treasure chest. I'm terribly sorry. I can't control myself when I smell money. Jupiter then handed the treasure chest to Ash, though she had already secretly stuffed her pockets with gold coins. The third room was as easy as the first, and soon they were at the last room. Just clear this room, and we can go back. Let's give it our all, everyone. But seeing the scene in the room, Ash couldn't help but be startled. The room was filled with the corpses of large sewer rats, and at the very back, there stood a gigantic monster. Rats. We must hunt the rats. We must clear the rats out of here. I will make the Lake Kingdom clean. Damien hadn't expected the monster to be able to speak human language, but his voice was also heard by the monster. There are still living rats. No matter how many are killed, they just keep coming endlessly. The system notification identified the monster as the giant rat man, the sewerage manager Pelag. Ash didn't understand why a rat man would be given a human name, but he had no time to ponder this as the monster was already pouncing towards them. I will annihilate you all. Since Lily was afraid of rats, she instinctively used fire magic on the rat man, effectively disrupting the rat's attack rhythm. This scene shocked the others, but also bought Ash some time to think of a strategy. You damn rat! As soon as he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning pierced through the monster's skull. The rat man's body emitted powerful bolts of lightning, and even Ash hadn't anticipated that the boss would be taken down so quickly. Your Highness, can we go home now? Of course, we can, but first, we need to open the treasure chest. Saying this, they approached the reward chest. Lucas, go and hold on to Jupiter. Lucas, let me go. You need to respect your elders. While this was happening, Ash opened the treasure chest. Inside was an R-grade longsword, the Rat Slicer. The sword inflicted extra damage on rat-type monsters, and the only one in the team who used a sword was Lucas. Ash handed the weapon over to him. Although it can't replace the sword you've always used, having it with you will definitely be useful. However, Ash remembered there should be one more reward, so he continued to rummage through the chest, quickly finding what he was looking for. This is an automatic defense turret. After receiving the rewards, the group continued deeper into the Lake Kingdom and soon came to the second area, the hidden alleyway. Ash hadn't expected a mere alley in the Lake Kingdom to be so splendid. Once built by a highly advanced magical civilization, the city now showed no signs of life, forever quiet in the darkness, stepping slowly towards death. After a moment of sadness, Ash set up a teleportation gate there. The areas ahead are even more dangerous, and I have already obtained what I wanted. Everyone has worked hard. Let's call it a day for now. We are going back. Ash didn't know that after he left, a person appeared in the Lake Kingdom. Could it be the last player? Finally, they've arrived here. Saying this, the man blew a whistle in his hand. Instantly, countless sewer rats swarmed the alley. Sad players, please forgive our sins. I am just like you. It was all for the Lake Kingdom. Meanwhile, Ash had already returned to his manor via the teleportation gate. Everyone has worked hard. Rest well today. I really don't know if I can rest. Having seen a city like that beneath the water, completely beyond any of our guesses, and that darkness is definitely not something normal. Your Highness, is there anything else you want to tell us? Although Ash had completed the entire game, the game did not clarify why the Lake Kingdom had become what it was. Not now. Let's slowly find out together later. It seems I can't sleep tonight. I need to go for a drink. Then I'll join you. If I don't get drunk, it seems I can't sleep either. Jupiter was the first to leave, pushing Lily along. I'm going back to the church now. Thinking about that darkness, I feel a bit scared. Praying should make me feel a bit better. Damien, make sure you rest well when you get back. Your Highness, don't you need to go down for another investigation? We have already completed our reconnaissance. The next wave of monsters attacking us will be the sewer rat army. It turns out that these creatures gather first in the free exploration areas, and when their numbers exceed a critical point, they spill over like floodwaters from the lake. So the creatures they encountered during exploration are the armies they will need to face in the next defensive battle. Just as he returned to the manor, Ader brought some bad news. Neither the center nor the nearby cities can send reinforcements. Ash doesn't understand why this is happening, but at this moment, Lucas's stomach inopportunely growled. After all, everything is already decided, and knowing now wouldn't change anything. Ash simply asked Ader to prepare a meal, leaving this matter for tomorrow. Early the next morning, Ader was called into the war room by Ash. It turns out the Empire is currently battling with a Western enemy nation, and almost all military forces have been sent to the Western Front. Ash is well aware of this game setting, but he doesn't understand why. Just when he is requesting reinforcements, even the forces from the remote southern areas were moved away. Moreover, it has only been a few days since the last war ended, and the mercenary guilds are also low on available mercenaries. Just as Ash was sinking into worry, Ader suddenly laughed. Why are you still laughing? Is there somewhere else that can provide troops? Indeed, there is one, but it will be difficult for you. Is this the time to worry about difficulty? We need to solve the next scene. Tell me quickly, where are the troops? If you really want to know that badly, you might as well come with me. Soon, the three of them were ready with their horses. Secretary Ader, where are we going now? We are heading to the former Lord's estate, the House of Front Count Cross. The Front Count is tasked with guarding the Empire's borders, required to resist enemy nations and eliminate monsters invading the Empire. Because they need to carry out border protection duties, the Front Counts have more authority than typical counts. From the initial settlement in Crossroad, the Cross family has been ruling this area. Thus, the fortress's name also derives from the Count's surname. Since the fortress's creation, the Cross family has been guarding it and is a very prestigious family. Why did the Front Count give up the lordship here? According to Ader, the Front Count had even more authority here than the Emperor. If he hadn't voluntarily resigned from his lordship, Ash wouldn't have been appointed as the lord here. So, Ash didn't understand why the House of Front Count Cross would give up a domain his family had ruled for generations. It's complicated. You should hear the explanation from him directly. Unnoticed, the group had arrived at the front Count Cross's estate. This place was the Count Cross's vacation house. He moved here after giving up the lordship. Seeing the scene before him, Ash wondered if anyone really lived here. Of course, I've always been sending supplies here regularly. Just then, an old man appeared. Who are you? Do you know where you are? How dare you enter so casually? Get out of my house. Front Count Cross. How are you? It's me, Ader. Ash didn't expect that the old drunkard before him was actually the Front Count. Front Count, I've brought guests. Didn't I say not to let anyone come to see me? This is the newly appointed Lord, the Empire's third prince, His Highness Ash. Nice to meet you, Front Count Cross. I am the youngest son of the Holy Emperor. I am here to discuss something important with you. Get out. Ash didn't expect to be interrupted before he could finish his sentence. I told you to get out, didn't you hear? Even if you, Front Count, were once the ruler here, you shouldn't issue a dismissal order to a prince meeting you for the first time. Aren't you being too presumptuous? Do I need to remind you of our hierarchical relationship? At this moment, the Front Count Cross had already picked up a weapon. Ash realized that the Count before him might be a complete madman, and the best way to deal with a madman is to retreat temporarily. Get out while I haven't started fighting. Don't show up again. Just pretend I don't exist. The Front Count Cross, named Cheryl Cross, was a character who had never appeared in the game, but his daughter, Evangeline Cross, was the strongest tank in the game. So, Ash had to win over this old drunkard no matter what. Why can this old man help us solve the problem of lack of troops? Because the Front Count has private soldiers, an elite force loyal only to the Front Count. If we can persuade the Front Count, it would greatly improve our shortage of troops. It seems that no matter what method we use, we must persuade him. But now, let alone talking, even meeting him is a problem. Your Highness, we're not completely without options. There's a special way drunks relate to each other. After hearing Ader's words, Ash immediately understood his intention. That afternoon, he visited the Front Count Cross's estate again. It seems you don't cherish your life. I already told you last time. But when he saw what was behind Ash, his attitude changed slightly. What is that? What else could it be? Of course, it's your favorite thing. After all, the third prince is famously indulgent, so he certainly wouldn't come to the countryside empty-handed. Let's have a drink together, Front Count. This is high-quality liquor from the Empire. But if you don't want a drink, never mind. Who said I didn't want a drink? Your Highness, please come in. Bring the liquor with you. Thus, the Front Count Cross led Ash into the estate. The sight of bottles scattered on the floor and the pungent smell of alcohol in the air seemed to signify the former lord's decadence. I haven't drunk with someone in a long time. After sitting down, Ash glanced at the glass. Is this glass clean? Even if the house is a mess, the glass must at least be clean. That's the basic respect for the liquor. Let's see what fine liquor you've brought. He eyed the label on the bottle and his eyes lit up. It's Peacemaker's inaugural year royal whiskey. This is very expensive. This liquor was specially brewed to commemorate the year the current emperor ascended to the throne, and even ordinary nobility rarely get to taste it. Ash believed that the Front Count's attitude towards him would certainly not be too bad after this. Indeed, a fine liquor. It feels very different from the moment it goes down the throat. You drink so fast. Can you truly appreciate its real charm? To compare it with the cheap stuff I usually guzzle, shouldn't I drink this one in big gulps too? Only then can I make a fair judgment. Anyway, Front Count, what we need to talk about today. Don't change the subject. I only let you in to drink. If you want to talk about something else, you might as well leave. Then at least prepare some snacks to accompany the drink. Hearing this, Front Count Cross, unusually, didn't get angry but instead casually threw a dark-looking bag. What's this? These are dried fruits made from the fruit of my orchard. You have an orchard? Can you see it out the window? It's just behind this estate. It's a small place, but tending to those fruit trees is my pastime. However, Ash spat out the dried fruits as soon as he put them in his mouth. What is this? It's bitter and fishy. How can anyone eat this? Such carefully cultivated fruits from my orchard, and you just spit them out. How rude. But despite his words, he spat them out too. Even though I grew these fruits, they really don't taste good. But this is really too horrible to eat. There's no choice but to give it to you as a gift. Why would you give me something you can't even swallow? If I could eat it, I would have kept it for myself. Why would I give it to you? For a moment, Ash found himself without a comeback. Crossroad is located at the southernmost part of the continent, where the sun is plentiful and the land fertile. There's no better place for growing fruit trees. Not just fruits, but other crops as well. If only those monsters wouldn't keep intruding. It's indeed a problem that monsters destroy the land and kill the farmers. But when those creatures are killed, they leave their corrupt magic in the soil. Do you know what happened after that? This area got polluted, and even if crops are planted, they can't escape dying off. So this land is cursed. That's why there are no farms around Crossroad. Front Count Cross looked at his wine glass with a complicated expression, filled with golden liquor brewed from the unharvestable grains and fruits of the region. Since it has come to this, why do you still tend to the orchard? Living in this world, everyone needs something to cling to. That orchard is my attachment. Now, I don't get drunk easily either. Front Count, would you like to guess why I came to see you today? I've told you already. If you want to talk about something else, you can leave. You can drive me away if you want. But let me say what I came to say before I go. The monsters are stirring again. And this time, the scale is not to be underestimated. Last time, 1,000 living armors invaded, and although we managed to stop them, the the city walls were severely damaged. Now, the walls are still unrepaired, and there's a dire shortage of soldiers. Front count, I need the soldiers under your command. I have no soldiers. I've learned that your family has elite soldiers. Indeed, there are some who were personally selected and trained by me, and who have fought battles alongside me all their lives. But when I gave up the title of Lord, when I put down that spear and shield, they too laid down their weapons. Now, they have retired. Please, call them back. It's no use. This land is no longer worth defending. Don't let them die in vain defending a meaningless front. Let them escape. Ash didn't expect that a man from a family that had always guarded this land, from distant ancestors to the present, would say such a thing. I ask you, Prince, why did you come to this land? Everything here is doomed to death, with no future or hope. That is my advice to you as someone who wasted his life guarding this place. Leave, the sooner the better, before you are consumed by its curse. Your Highness, did you succeed in persuading him? No, I failed, but I got a present. These things can't be resolved in a day. Take it slow. By the way, did the front count cross encounter something significant in the past? It seems like he has been through a lot. Lucas, do you know anything? That damn director, Ader, insisted that I hear it from the front count myself. Looks like I need to educate him properly when I get back. Anyway, persuading him is important, but before that, we need to do what we can, because whatever happens next, the monster attacks will come as expected, and all Ash can do is try to eliminate them as efficiently as possible. Let's return to Crossroad. There is still much to be done. This time, they will face 3 elite monsters and 3,251 large sewer rats. Time quickly moved to the next day, and the giant sword on the city walls had already been cleared. Today, all debris will be cleared, officially starting the work to repair the city walls. Don't clean up the debris of the giant sword, just throw it in front of the city walls. They will make good roadblocks, perfect for trapping rats. How long is it expected to take to repair the city walls? Because the condition of the walls is worse than we thought. Just get to the point. How many days will it take? 10 more days are needed. But now there are only 7 days left until the next defense battle. The walls of Crossroad are the result of imperial architectural technology. Ash understands that it's not a simple task to mend with just stones. I will have manpower and materials airlifted here. No matter what happens, the walls must be fixed within a week. Ash knows this is an unreasonable demand, but he can only forcefully push them to complete it now. Because of the type of large rats they encountered in the underground city, and there being over 3,000 of them this time, the defense battle definitely cannot go on without the walls. We'll do our best. I will keep your hard work and sacrifices in mind. Everyone, this is the work of guarding the world. Let's all do our best together to successfully defend Crossroad. Ash lived a life of moving between 2 points. During the day, he supervised the repair of the defensive line on the city walls. At night, he went to the house of Front Count Cross to accompany him for drinks. He no longer talked about anything else with the Front Count Cross. They just drank. The defensive line was also being repaired according to plan, and the drinking over these days was taking a toll on Ash's body. Finally, after 4 days of silent drinking, Front Count Cross spoke up for the first time. Your Highness, do you have someone you deeply love? Hearing this question, Ash was a bit stunned. He didn't know how to respond. I asked you, do you have someone you deeply love? From the look of you, you probably don't. Indeed, I don't. Think about it again. Are you sure? You should know Ash isn't from this world. In the world he lives in, Ash has always been alone, never having received someone's love nor having loved someone, just living in solitude. And then after starting to stream, he gradually gained popularity, receiving love from many viewers, but those were also just the viewers' one-sided love for him. Young man, it seems your life is quite boring. Is that something you, who just stays at home drinking alone, should say? Front Count Cross, did you have someone you deeply loved? I did. My wife was the only person I loved in my lifetime, but she was killed by monsters here in the orchard 3 years ago, so I had to hold a funeral with an empty coffin. The Front Count Cross stared blankly into his glass. There's a curse passed down through the lords of this land, a curse that says one day you'll have to choose between this city and your loved one. It has been this way without exception from the distant ancestors, through my grandfather and my father. As he spoke, the Front Count's hands began to tremble involuntarily. I faced the same choice. At that time, the monsters had been quiet for over a decade. The city was peaceful, but profits were down. Because of the financial situation, we had to start new industries. My wife suggested, let's farm the land south of the front line. The land to the north was abandoned, and the empty land to the south was very enticing. The frequency of monster attacks had decreased, and the magical pollution of the land had vanished. It really was land fit for farming. So, I expanded our farmland to the south, and soon refugees from other areas came in droves. Because the number of monsters was small, it was easy to repel them. For a long time, it seemed we had found a good solution, and this orchard was located at the southernmost of the new frontier. My wife, as the Lord's wife, led the effort in the most dangerous place. I still remember her feeding me grapes with her muddy hands. The fruits from the first year of cultivation were not of good quality, but they tasted sweeter than anything else in the world. So for a brief moment, I had the hope that maybe we would no longer have to fight monsters and could live off the land instead. I asked myself, could it continue like this? But I knew it was impossible. In the second year of cultivation, I received a report that about 100 monsters were approaching the city. I hurried back to the city, and my wife, who stayed at home to look after the orchard, waved waved to me and told me to be careful. But when I arrived at the city, I learned that the monsters had split into 2 groups. About a dozen had broken off from the main force and attacked the farmland, while the rest were assaulting the city. I had to make a choice: save my wife in the farmland or protect the tens of thousands of citizens in the city. Your Highness, what do you think I chose? Ash was silent for a few seconds before responding. You chose to protect the city. That's right, just like what our family has done generation after generation, following the principle. I chose the city. I locked the city gates, keeping the monsters outside. After hours of fighting, I finally repelled them all. When I hurried back to the farmland on horseback, I found the fields destroyed and all the people there dead. The monsters had torn apart hundreds of people. The orchard and my wife were gone too. I was faithful to my duties, but I lost the most important thing to me. Where did I go wrong? Was it because the defenses against the great monsters weren't strong enough? Or was it because I had forcefully expanded to the south of the front line? Yes, it was all my fault. But the most painful thing for me is that at that moment, I chose to abandon my wife for the city. My daughter said I was crazy. She could never understand why I didn't choose her mother, but the city instead. A few days after this happened, she left this place. In the end, protecting this city all my life led to this. My wife dead, my daughter gone, leaving me alone to grow old here. Young lord, this is just one example. You should know why they call this place the City of Graves, right? The city built over a graveyard, constructed from death itself, will also demand you to make a choice. The moment to sacrifice what you love most to protect this city will surely come. Ash felt that rather than a curse, this was more like a prophecy, as if foretelling an inevitable end. Our family has always borne such sacrifices, but I can no longer allow such things to happen. I will not pass this cursed duty on to my daughter. So, it's true that you returned your position to prevent your daughter from inheriting it? Yes, I want my daughter to leave this cursed land and live a happy and peaceful life. Prince, you asked me to help you protect the city, right? I have already tried my best to protect this place, even losing the most important thing to me. I don't want to continue anymore. I now want to live out my days here in the orchard, not on the city walls. In the reflection on his wine glass, the front count's eyes no longer held the pride of having guarded the front line all his life. They only showed the regret of a man who couldn't protect his wife in her final moments. The front count Cross, once famed protectors of Crossroad, now could only numb themselves with alcohol to bear living in this world. This answer should clarify why I don't want to help you. I'm telling you the truth because I appreciate your company these past days. You should leave now, but before you go, I'll give you one last piece of advice. If you ever find yourself facing that moment, make sure you choose wisely. Don't end up with regrets like I did. And now, only 2 days are left until the start of the stage 2. Everyone has worked hard. Have some food and rest. Seeing that Ash had brought food, everyone immediately gathered around. Guys, hurry up and eat, then get back to work. Then, Ash asked the person in charge about the progress of the repairs. Thanks to your reinforcement of manpower, we should be able to finish on schedule. The city wall will be repaired in 2 more days. Then it's also time to set that up. Prince, can I finally use this? It turns out this was the magic scroll Ash had obtained in the dungeon, which the alchemist had just finished studying today. Without hesitation, Ash used the scroll. With a flash of light, the scroll in his hand disappeared. He then began to gather materials for constructing the cannon. The R-rank mana core obtained from the reward chest also came into play. Once the materials were ready, Ash chose a location to build the cannon. In an instant, the ground stones levitated and assembled into a massive cannon under the gaze of the onlookers. Within seconds, a brand new cannon stood proudly on the city wall. Seeing the magical construction technology that had disappeared centuries ago, the alchemist also showed a longing expression. It's also thanks to all of you that we were able to build such a solid defensive line. I'll be counting on everyone moving forward. With that, Ash left the city walls amid the cheers of the crowd. He really hoped that this situation could continue indefinitely. After leaving the city walls, Ash went to the blacksmith shop to customize a set of armor for Lucas using the materials he had previously collected. Although the armor's stats were average, its special feature, Spectre FY, which made the wearer immune to all damage for 5 seconds, was very useful. However, during this period, the wearer could not attack others. I will definitely make good use of it. Of course, I custom made it just for you. Lucas had a wry smile on his face when he came to get measured. Ash decided he needed to regularly bring him gifts in the future. Thank you for making such excellent armor. I should be thanking you. It's been a long time since I've worked with such fine materials. If you bring me more, I will do my best to make even better items. Your Highness, please continue to order custom pieces. As Ash knew, the equipment made in the blacksmith shop was very important for strategy throughout the game, so he would definitely be a frequent visitor there. After handling the business at the blacksmith shop, Ash still had one last thing to do. Let's go to the western region, where the most important event is taking place. On the west field of the fort city, cannons fired again, marking the start of the funeral. This was for the soldiers who had died in the last scenario. Under neatly aligned tombstones, new coffins were being buried. The number of deaths in the last scenario was not large, and Ash didn't know whether to feel fortunate or unfortunate about that. The choir's singing echoed around, and all the rituals were completed in a moment. As night fell, Ash still stood looking at the tombstones, reluctant to leave. He had allocated a significant part of the city's budget to the funerals. He had also set up a subsidy for the deceased, truly in the style of royalty. But this place was the front line against monsters, a place measured by the number of corpses, and there would always be moments when such kindness was unbearable. Front count, did you come here just to say that? Or have you run out of alcohol? For someone like me, there's never enough alcohol. I can buy my own. But today, I came for another reason. I asked my old comrades, who used to be my soldiers, if they were willing to help you defend the city. So, how did they respond? They all said they were willing to protect the city again. That's wonderful. Front count cross. This is the best news I've heard this week. I don't know how much those old soldiers can help you, but they are rearming themselves. I'll leave the command to you. Be careful when deploying them. They are all old men like me. I really appreciate this. Front count. You don't need to thank me. Thank them instead. Ash was frustrated by the front count's stubbornness, but didn't expect him to come forward to help willingly. It's also thanks to you for speaking to them. I really appreciate it. I can only help you this much, old man that I am. I leave the city in your hands, new lord. Good luck. Thank you for your help. Front count cross. I will perform well, and I'll continue to seek your wisdom in the future. What wisdom? Remember to bring wine. I'm very worried about your health. I'll send you plenty of medicinal supplies. Kid, if you're sending those, you might as well send nothing at all. With that, the front count waved his hand and left Crossroad, which he had protected all his life. Ash watched the front count's fading figure, wishing he could ask him to stay. Despite his age, the front count cross, having commanded the defense of this frontier all his life, could still be a great help in the defensive battles. However, Ash couldn't do that because the front count had already lost too much in this city. All Ash could do was silently watch the old man's departing figure. He thought about having a long conversation with the front count the next time they had a chance, listening to the former lord's advice, but he never dreamed that there would never be a next time. 2 days quickly passed, and the city walls were fully repaired. Although many parts were rushed, the wall's defensive capabilities were still solid. Now everything was ready, not only with ample supplies, but also the previously missing manpower had been replenished. Although the Silver Soldiers originally had over 1,000 members, only 300 were present here now, but having so many come was already quite fortunate. It's definitely good news. The automated defense cannon will greatly compensate for the lack of firepower, and the kill zone prepared specifically for the monsters is also ready. Ash now felt confident that he could easily repel this enemy attack. Just then, a man wearing a mask appeared in view. On that empty land, he stood alone, silently watching Crossroad. Suddenly, a soldier on horseback rushed over from a distance. Your Highness, the scouting base reports that the monsters are surging towards Crossroad. Soon, Ash saw the empty land filled with dust. They are coming. Do not let your guard down. Since playing this game, Ash had never had such a fantastic start, but at this moment, he couldn't understand why someone would appear on the monster's inevitable path. Your Highness, what's wrong? Lucas, I just saw a person over there. But looking in the direction Ash was pointing, besides the billowing dust, there was nothing there. Damien, didn't you see a person over there? Damien immediately activated his 1,000-mile eyes. I didn't see anyone, Your Highness. Ash looked ahead with a grave expression, hoping he had indeed been mistaken. Just then, the walls began to tremble. This meant the besieging monsters were very close. But the more this happened, the more Ash needed to stay calm. Regardless of what he had just seen, he must focus on the battle at hand. No matter the number of enemies, there was only one thing Ash could do, and that was to stop them. Artillery troops, prepare to fire. At the command, the sound of cannons erupted along the city walls. Countless shells flew towards the rat swarm, causing massive damage in the narrow passageways. The first barrage alone shattered hundreds of rats. Ash knew well that the rat swarm's main feature was its numbers. Nothing else really mattered, and because they were so numerous, they moved in groups. Just one area attack could eliminate a large group at once. Unnoticed, the battle had been raging for over 30 minutes. Continuing at this pace, they could surely get through the scene unscathed. But just then, the rats began to climb over the wooden barricades. Ash quickly picked up a telescope to observe the battlefield. It turned out that the corpses of the rat swarm had piled up under the wooden walls, and the monsters were climbing over the barricade on the bodies of their fellow creatures. As the bodies of the monsters continued to pile up, the wall, unable to bear the weight, collapsed. The failure of the killing zone was unexpected for Ash. He quickly commanded the artillery and ballista units to adjust their aim. Fortunately, there was still some distance between the killing zone and the city walls, filled with obstacles. But Ash overlooked one thing. The rats moved too quickly once they were unimpeded. The large cannons and ballistas couldn't target these swiftly moving rats. For a moment, Ash couldn't think of a solution. As the commander, he should have been aware of the rats' characteristics. Perhaps the recent string of good news had made him overlook the most important matter. If things continued this way, more rats than Ash anticipated would reach the walls. Just then, the automatic defense turret activated, firing dozens of shells in an instant, all hitting the monsters below the walls with precise accuracy. Ash was stunned by its effectiveness, but a single automatic defense turret was still not enough to turn the tide of the entire battlefield. And after exhausting its shells, the turret entered a reloading sequence. There was nothing left to stop the rats. While the shards of the giant sword served some purpose, it was only a matter of time before they reached the walls. Once they reached the walls, it was inevitable that they would have to use soldiers' bodies to stop the rats, surely resulting in many casualties. And this was just the beginning. Suddenly, each subsequent shell effectively halted the monster's advance. That's right, little one, you're doing a great job. It turns out the Silver Soldiers was a group of battle-hardened veterans, providing invaluable experience to the younger soldiers. Stay sharp, push through in one go. It's okay to misfire now and then. Keep firing, even a wall of fire is effective. Your Highness, you don't need to worry about this side. We old soldiers will properly command here. These veterans stayed close to the soldiers, acting as mentors and pulling the crumbling battlefield back on track. Thanks to the activity of the Silver Soldiers, they were able to effectively target the sewer rats. Meanwhile, Ash and his teammates were also performing their tasks. Lucas was commanding the front line, following Ash's orders precisely. Even if Ash's commands were sometimes unclear, Lucas was able to interpret them and issue accurate orders. Damien was responsible for sniping. Although slower, his shots were highly accurate, picking off rats close to the walls. Though his role wasn't prominent in such a large-scale battle, he still relieved some of Ash's pressure. Lily was still managing the defensive artifacts on the scene. She deliberately raised her voice, as if trying to show Ash that she was genuinely working hard. Even so, Ash couldn't let her step back now. The only exception was Jupiter. While everyone else was busy repelling monsters, she was lying on the city walls, drinking wine. Although Ash had indeed told her to rest first, he didn't expect Jupiter to be drinking openly. Given that Jupiter was a valuable mage, Ash found it hard to reprimand her directly. In truth, Ash didn't really like this grandmother, but so far, the defense lines were holding up well, and the automatic defense turret had already reloaded. Each of its shots was effective against the rat swarm. Continuing this way, they were sure to smoothly clear the stage. But just then, Ash noticed an inconspicuous black dot again. That dot, unmistakably, was the figure Ash had just seen. Realizing he hadn't been mistaken, Ash immediately drew a map. Stunned, he saw that an enemy NPC had appeared in Stage 2. Although this game presents different events in each stage, involving NPCs from enemy kingdoms with a lake kingdom, these NPCs obstruct the scenario in their own ways. However, it's only Stage 2 now. Enemy NPCs should not be appearing yet, and since Ader is not here, he cannot inquire about the current situation. Damien, you saw that man, right? Your Highness, are you referring to that bard? Don't hesitate, aim straight for his head and shoot. But he looks like a human, just like us. It was only after hearing Damien mention Bard that Ash remembered who that person really was. Make sure to shoot him in the head before he starts playing his flute. But Damien hesitated, his hands shaking. He did not want to point his weapon at a human. Didn't you say you wanted to be my gun? If you don't want to see more people die, aim at his head right now. But it was all too late. A melodious flute sound drifted up to the city walls. Ash slowly turned back towards the direction of the bard. Seeing the flute being brought to his lips, the supposed melodious sound made Ash's blood run cold. Suddenly, all the sewer rats stopped moving. The soldiers on the city walls were also stunned, not understanding why the rats had suddenly halted. The next second, all the rats let out a piercing scream, as if responding to the bard's flute. They surged toward a specific location. Where are they heading? What's their target? It's the center of the wall. That's the part that was just finished today. Cannon and ballista units, change your aiming points. Concentrate all firepower. Almost instantly as Ash gave the command, the cannons and ballista on the wall fired simultaneously, but it was too late. The battlefield was too rapidly changing, and the movements of the monsters were too sudden. The speeding rats left the soldiers no time to react. What followed stunned everyone. The foremost rats slammed head-on into the wall and died. And it didn't stop there. The monsters that arrived next continued to crash into the wall, the very same wall that had just been repaired that morning. While everyone had done their best in the limited time, the wall's condition was inevitably imperfect, as it had been hurriedly repaired only in the most visibly damaged sections. Some gaps were unavoidable. Now, the swarm of monsters was attacking those gaps. They banged their heads against the wall, pried open iron sheets with their toenails, and chewed through the stone, dismantling the wall in ways other monsters could not. Only rats could do this, even at the cost of their lives. They were relentless, yet Ash had no way to stop it all. In that moment, whether it was just Ash's imagination or not, he thought he saw the bard smile. The bard is an NPC from the Lake Kingdom, known among players as the Pied Piper, capable of commanding monsters with his flute. Damien quickly aimed for his head. He must not escape, but Damien's hands trembled continuously. It seemed as if the bard, perhaps provocatively, adjusted his hat while under Damien's aim. Damien, how long are you going to wait? But until the bard disappeared, Damien couldn't fire the crossbow in his hands. Instead, he seemed relieved to put it down after the bard had fled. I'm very sorry, Your Highness. Although he's an enemy, I can't shoot a person. Ash understood. After all, Damien's original profession was a healer. However, among their enemies were many humans, and battling humans was inevitable in the future. If Damien couldn't overcome this issue, his effectiveness in battle would be greatly reduced. This was a problem Ash had to address soon. Let's talk about this after the war is over. Right now, Ash had more pressing issues to handle. We must not let those monsters get close to the wall. Concentrate all firepower. Jupiter, you have work to do. Show up now. I knew you'd need me. I've been ready. Blast those rats to bits. Instantly, powerful lightning struck down from the sky, hitting the rat swarm in front of the walls. Prepare the flamethrower artifact artifacts. Use maximum power, Your Highness. Activating the flamethrower artifacts. The next second, intense flames burst forth from the artifacts, instantly turning the area in front of the walls into a zone impassable by the rat swarm. Do you think the Empire's fortress is just for show? A bunch of brainless idiots. Just then, the system suddenly provided a new prompt. The boss that had just been indicated by a question mark suddenly had a name, the Ratman Champion. This meant the boss had appeared, and it brought a second wave of sewer rats. Their intent was clear. They wanted to breach the weakest part of the wall. Don't just stand there watching. We must stop them. All cannons fired at the newly appeared Ratman Champions, but the Ratman Champions ignored the cannon fire and charged straight for the wall. Keep in mind that these creatures were at least twice the size of any rat person Ash had seen in the dungeon. If they reached the wall, all previous efforts would be in vain. Just then, the automatic defense turret completed loading its shells. Instantly, dozens of cannonballs were fired directly at the Ratman Champions. The overwhelming firepower engulfed them. Just like that, the first boss fell before everyone, but the situation did not improve. They came again. Get ready. We must take down the Ratman Champions. Fire at will. Don't hold back. Full firepower. Activate the magic amplification artifact. Target Jupiter. Your Highness, I feel like I have endless strength now. You bunch of rat pests. Let me teach you how to respect your elders. Dozens of lightning bolts rained down on the rat swarm, instantly melting countless rats. However, because the attack was so widespread, Jupiter's power was diluted, and the remaining damage was not enough to kill the Ratman Champions. Lily, use the flamethrower now. But, Your Highness, the artifact is still cooling down. I know. Lily, you need to take action yourself. The fierce firepower quickly engulfed the Ratman Champions. Amidst the blazing flames, the Ratman Champions finally stopped, and the second one fell. Just then, the third Ratman Champion clawed through its fallen comrades. There's only one left. We must stop it. Lucas held his sword over his shoulder, his expression utterly determined. The next second, his long sword flew straight out from the wall, but the damage from this strike was still not enough to kill the Ratman Champion. Your Highness, we need one more shot. Damien, put an end to this. Without any hesitation, Damien fired his stone crossbow. Success. We've taken it down. But in the next second, the Ratman Champion staggered toward the city wall. Ash hadn't expected it to still be able to move after taking so much damage. With a loud crash, the Ratman Champion fell, but it collapsed right under the wall. Damn, the wall has been breached. Time rewound to a few minutes earlier. The front Count Cross watched the battle from afar. As a battle-hardened commander, he instantly recognized the difference in these creatures. They were not only massive in scale, but had also formed a unified legion, rather than a mixed crowd. He couldn't imagine. Having already endured 3 such battles, the front Count finally understood why Ash had pleaded for his help. The playboy, known only for his indulgences in the capital, had performed incredibly well, but it was all still too dangerous. The front Count hesitated to help, but then he remembered the scene when he returned to his orchard. The memories Crossroad left him were too painful, and as a retired old man, he felt no need to take to the field himself. But just then, the front Count heard a loud noise. The Ratman Champion had breached the gates of Crossroad in its dying moments, but the front Count had sworn off battle. Now, he only wanted to return to his orchard. My wife, wait for me. I will definitely protect you this time. Meanwhile, issue a shelter-in-place order for the city. Now, the gate had been breached, and the city's residents were no longer safe. The second wave of the rat swarm was almost upon them. Leave all the artillery and archers behind. Those who can engage in hand-to-hand combat, go to the base of the wall. Everyone else, keep firing. We must establish a fire barrier before the wall collapses. Jupiter, you may fight on your own judgment, but try to eliminate as many enemies in one go as possible. Once you've gathered enough magic power, release all the lightning. What other artifacts do we have available? Only haste is left. What about the flamethrower artifact? It'll be another 10 minutes till it's charged. Use haste on the troops at the front line immediately, and deploy the flamethrower as soon as it's charged. At this moment, Damien was engulfed in deep self-blame, feeling that the current situation was all his own doing. Ash lightly tapped Damien's head with a noggin knocker. You've been performing well up to this point. I won't blame you for a minor mistake or two, so don't be discouraged. As a sniper who could hit the enemy with 100% accuracy, Damien was essentially a cheat character in this world. Just having such a capable subordinate like him already made Ash feel immensely powerful, so I hope you can have confidence in yourself just as I believe in you. Listen, Damien, you need to act as the last line of defense for the fortress, sniping those rats that slip through the gaps between the combat soldiers' defense and invade the city. All Ash could do now was pray that they would all fulfill their roles. They're getting in. Combat army, get ready. Instantly, all the soldiers' expressions turned extremely solemn. They were waiting for the moment the rats entered the fortress. The first rat that got in was immediately slain with a single stroke. As the commander of the combat soldiers, Lucas had to set an example. Their entryway is narrow. Don't panic. Just deal with them one by one. With Lucas's encouragement, all the soldiers were highly motivated. Yet, Ash noticed something was off. The number of rats coming through the wall was increasing, and Ash suddenly realized that these creatures must be stealthily widening their pathway. The flamethrower artifact is ready, but the next second, a scream caught Ash's attention. Some of the rats had already climbed climbed up the wall and killed the alchemists, falling before Lily. Ash quickly rushed over and punched a rat, but the damage was not high this time, and the creature was merely knocked back. Now, more and more rats were continually climbing up the wall. Come at me, all of you, you damned creatures. Due to the casualties among the alchemists, the artifacts could not be activated. Casualties were also mounting among the combat soldiers, who were supposed to help reduce the load on the others, and injuries were increasing on both sides. Even Ash had to join the fight, relying on his lucky strike gloves. At this rate, irreparable losses were indeed imminent. Just then, a turning point occurred. There's Front Count Cross. Hearing the soldier shout, Ash hurriedly looked towards the plains outside the city. A dazzling light was emanating from not far away, and Ash recognized that spear. It was the same one the Front Count had pointed at him initially. That stubborn old drunk was now charging alone towards the monsters. Come at me, you damned creatures. Seeing the familiar glow ignite, Ash's heart surged with hope. Ash knew that Front Count had used a wide area provocation, drawing all the rats' attention to him. He couldn't understand why this old man, who had refused to guard the fortress any longer, was doing this. What are you doing, Front Count? You'll get yourself killed. But all that came back was Front Count's determined gaze. Cheryl Cross was born in a fortress meant to stop monsters. Whether it was inheriting the title of Front Count after his father's death or becoming a lord at a young age, he spent every day hunting monsters. For him, the world was just that simple, until that woman came to the city. What will you be selling in this city? Selling flowers, my lord. The female merchant received permission to open a shop in the city, and Cheryl Cross was speechless. Here on the front line of monster territory, they needed arms and ammunition. What use were flowers that would soon wither? It's precisely because they are useless that people need flowers. The beauty of flowers comes from their brief lifespan. Cheryl Cross couldn't understand, so he suspected the woman was a spy sent by the enemy. To find proof that she was a spy, he visited the flower shop daily. Eventually, he began to distinguish the colors and scents of flowers and memorized all their types, yet he still couldn't understand why flowers were considered beautiful. A year later, Cheryl Cross proposed to her. Back to the present, Front Count's skill drew all the monsters' attention. The rat army swarmed towards him alone, and just like in the past, the Front Count charged fearlessly into the mass of creatures. Doing what he was once best at, Front Count also remembered that day was also a monster invasion day. That evening, after repelling the monsters, he hurried home. Look, honey, this is your daughter. Cheryl Cross hadn't yet had time to wash off the blood and dust. He carefully picked up the little one. Evangeline, our daughter, as beautiful as her name. But Cheryl Cross wasn't sure, so he didn't respond. He didn't understand how such a fragile being, which could disappear so easily, could fill a person with joy. Just moments ago, while slaughtering monsters, he had been fearless, but now he couldn't make sense of anything. Quickly rally the troops. Do not use heavy weapons to avoid accidentally injuring Front Count. Use only stone crossbows and bows, first shooting those peripheral rats. Lucas, take all the soldiers capable of melee combat outside the city. We must rescue Front Count. My lord, we're not just going to rescue Front Count. This time, our strategy is to attack from behind the pack of rats, so we can annihilate them in one fell swoop. We will annihilate those creatures and return alive with the Front Count. Everyone, let's take down those creatures and bring the Front Count back alive. At this moment, Ash could only pray inwardly, hoping that the Front Count would be safe. The old drunkard, who had sworn not to guard the city anymore, was now fighting for it. Cheryl Cross himself did not understand why he was doing this. Having decided to spend his final days beside his wife, why had he chosen the city again? He didn't know what it was about this detestable city that had drawn him back to the battlefield. Although he had spent his life trying to understand, he still did not. However, one thing was clear to him: the flowers and his daughter. He was determined to protect those delicate, fleeting lives from these monsters. My daughter lives beyond these walls, and so does the world in which my daughter lives. Not one shall pass, not one can. As time passed, Cheryl Cross's wounds multiplied, but he still did not fall. He continued to block the monsters. He knew, no matter how earnestly he cultivated the orchard, no matter how many monsters he hunted here, those times could never return. But this man, who had known only battle all his life, was about to wield his spear again, if only to kill one more monster, if only to delay them 1 second longer. Cheryl Cross was determined to fight off his companions to the underworld. Gradually, the surroundings quieted down. He thought perhaps he had already breathed his last. Just then, a voice nearby caught his attention. Front Count Cross, you have defeated all the monsters. The battle was over, and only then did Cheryl Cross come to his senses. The monsters had been eliminated. You can rest now. Thus, Cheryl Cross, the Front Count of Crossroad, fell. After repelling the monsters, Ash immediately rode to the scene. Your Highness, I apologize. It seems I have arrived too late. Ash did not scold him, but walked forward step by step under the watchful eyes of all the soldiers. At that moment, Damien was tending to the Front Count among the crowd. Seeing Ash looking at him, Damien shook his head. Ash immediately took out a high-level potion from the reward chest. Maybe with this, put it back. That won't cure my wounds. It will only make them hurt more. Help me up. I can't see anything. Is the battle over? It's over. Front Count, you've done a great service. Did they breach the walls? They did breach, but we didn't let a single monster in. The people in the city are safe. That's good. Don't look so gloomy. This is the monster frontier. People dying is inevitable. It's just my turn now. Don't feel sad for one person's death. Feel happy for the victory, for the survival. This is a city built on graves, derisively named for its many dead, but it also means that even on a graveyard, life goes on. Mourning too much will bring the city to a halt. Funerals are fine, but they should also make everyone feel the corresponding joy. I will definitely keep that in mind. Front count. Hope is the best motivation for living. So, if anyone should die, it should be me. Someone who has no more hopes, who can afford to lose. Please promise me one last thing. Prince Ash, say it. Front count. I will do everything within my power. If one day, my daughter comes here, please tell her, Daddy is sorry. I hope you can live freely and do as you wish. I'm sorry, my wife. As a knight, I ultimately couldn't protect anything. Not the orchard, not you, and not our daughter. No, front count. You saved the world. Not just once. Your whole life has been about saving the world. Saving everyone above the front lines. This world owes you a lot. But the front count did not respond anymore. He just kept apologizing, and Ash knew that the front count could no longer hear him. It was then that Ash thought of the bag of dried fruit the front count had given him. He had not understood why the front count kept those dried fruits, which even he didn't like, but perhaps they were meant for this moment. These grapes, they really are sweet. With a smile, the front count stopped breathing. A heavy toll of bells came from afar, signaling the end of the monster invasion and the lifting of the shelter orders. Ash couldn't understand. This man who lost everything to protect the city, who had voluntarily given up his legacy because he detested the city so much, why he came back in the final hour, and what he sacrificed for. What is it about this battlefront that devours a person's life? So heavy. Front count. The mantle of lord of this city is truly heavy. The tolling of the bells continued to echo in the air, bringing an end to this difficult day. Cheryl Cross became the only heroic character to die in this scenario. When Ash returned to the mansion, it was already dark. Lord, you're finally back. Are you injured? I've been very worried about you. Ash ignored Ader's praise and grabbed him by the collar instead. Ader had not reacted before Ash pinned him against the wall. Explain yourself now, you damn director. The current situation is obviously very strange. What's with the absurd difficulty? The tutorial scene is supposed to be like that, so I didn't mind. Even when the living armors appeared in the first stage, I thought it was just bad luck and didn't think much of it. But an NPC that commands monsters in stage 2, even hell difficulty wouldn't have such a thing. What have you done? Will there be more weird things in the next stage? You said you would help me, so why hide these things? Explain yourself. Lord, you might not believe me, but I am helping you in my own way. Stop talking nonsense. How can this be helping me? And you didn't tell me anything. That necklace you got in the tutorial scene, once you pass stage 3, its skills will be unlocked. Once that skill is unlocked, you will understand all the points you find puzzling now. Just one more stage, and you will see why all this is happening. I hope, Lord, that you can bear it. I sincerely pray that after you know the truth about this crazy world, you will continue to fight as resolutely as now, because by then, it will really be impossible to escape. Escape what? Why should I escape? Escape the world itself. But Ader did not tell Ash all the truth. That day, a little girl started her journey home. Flags fluttered half-mast everywhere in the city. 3 days had passed since the end of stage 2. Although the air was heavy, Crossroad was busy as usual preparing for the next defensive battle. After a day's schedule, Ash took the carriage back to the mansion. There were still 12 days until the next stage, and the city wall repairs were going smoothly. However, when Ash reached the entrance of the mansion, he saw an unfamiliar figure. He was just about to alert Lucas, but the person had already come to the carriage window. As a lord, Ash was attacked right at his own mansion entrance. Fortunately, the girl's attack didn't hit Ash. In fact, she seemed to be just trying to burst the carriage's tire. After the attack, Lucas immediately got out to check on Ash. After confirming Ash was unharmed, he immediately drew his sword, aiming at the attacker. To their surprise, the attacker was a little girl. It's just a kid. You can't take her lightly just because she's a kid. She must be a trained combatant. Look at her clothes. That's the uniform of the Imperial Royal Academy. What is a student of the Academy doing here? State your name immediately. It seems I should be the one asking you that. Old man, this was my house, but when I came back, I found it occupied by a bunch of strangers. I don't know if these people have started as troublemaking bandits or if they are forces of an invading duke from another country. There's too little information. Just as I was hesitating, I happened to see you old men arriving in a carriage, so I stopped you. You could have just asked, why did you have to damage the carriage? That's how the school teaches us, to suppress first if you suspect they are enemies. But I didn't intend to damage the carriage to this extent. I am sorry for that. Back to the point. Who exactly are you? Why are you occupying someone else's house without permission? I'll decide whether to teach you a lesson based on your answer. What nonsense are you talking about, you little brat? This is the mansion of the Lord of Crossroad. Of course it belongs to the Lord. What are you saying? My father is the Lord of this place. The moment she said this, both Ash and Lucas fell silent. On the 3rd day after the front count's death, his daughter had returned. I see. So you are Evangeline Cross. Do you know me? I often heard your father mention you. In that moment of eye contact, Ash truly felt that this girl was the front count's daughter. Those green eyes very much like her father's. But Ash remembered that in the game, Evangeline was a tall and stately beauty, so he couldn't understand why the Evangeline in front of him was so short. How can you comment on someone's appearance directly? That's very rude. Only then did Ash notice that Evangeline was trembling trembling with anger. You actually mock someone's physical shortcomings to their face. You must think you have many lives. I only have one. Then you should value your life more. I've changed my mind. I just wanted to ask about the situation, but now I'm serious.